So, my name is Jenny Birak. I'm an astrologer and an energy healer. I use the energy healing modality known as theta healing with clients in tandem with their natal charts to find out whatever karma is occurring in this lifetime or illness uh, typically comes from something that we hold in our subconscious beliefs that's shown in our natal charts. So, what I'm doing now is weekly energies for the collective, and I ask Archangel Metatron to help me bring forward the messages for the week that would be helpful for all of us to know going in, so that we're more equipped to deal with them as they come in. People think about the energy and say like, oh, the energies lately, they've been so, that's all astrology. It's all of the planets, these giant bodies in the cosmos, in our solar system. They all hold an energy just like we hold an energy. And all of the planets, just like us, they're duality. There's higher energies and there's lower energies of the planets. And depending on how they aspect one another, what constellation they're in, that affects all of us, the whole. It isn't anything to do with, a sun sign or a moon sign or a rising sign. Yes, that will affect people differently. But these are the energies that we're all dealing with differently depending on how it's affecting your particular natal chart. But this is just for the entire collective, the energies that we can expect for this week. So we've got a lot happening this week. We've got the sun moving into Aries and the spring equinox coming. Yay, spring equinox. And we've got Mercury going retrograde. We just had a very healing new moon in the constellation of Pisces. Chiron is at the very end of Pisces. He has been traveling through Pisces. Now, Chiron has a very unusual orbit. He's known, his energy carries a healing, it's a healing energy. It's also the energy wherever it shows up in your particular natal chart, it speaks to the wound that you're carrying. Like he had a wound that wouldn't heal, and he was granted immortality, but he actually gave it up because he was living eternally, but he was suffering and in pain with a wound that wouldn't heal. So wherever it falls in your particular natal chart speaks to a lot of times the inner child wounding. It's usually something that we came in with, really. It usually goes back a lot further than this lifetime. But the good news is that when we find the healing for whatever is showing up with Chiron in your particular natal chart, that's the healing that leads to your freedom. Chiron, he orbits the sun between Uranus and Saturn. Saturn being the lord of karma, and Uranus being the breaker of chains that frees us from our karma. So when you think about it that way, Chiron's really the key. He looks like a key. His little glyph, I don't know if you can make that out, but it looks like a key, and that's the key to your healing. Wherever it falls in your natal chart, depending on what house, what sign, and what it's aspecting, is talking about the key to your freedom from your pain, from your suffering. So he was the wounded healer. So what we do in turn then is, tell our story, or just use like the vibration. Our vibration is raised when we receive that healing, and it in turn heals those around us. So the new moon was conjunct the asteroid Chiron, and now the sun is exact with Chiron at the end of Pisces. And as Chiron has traveled through Pisces, I believe it about 7 years. His orbit, like I said, it's pretty erratic. They actually thought that he was a comet when they first found him because of the erratic orbit he has, which makes sense because Uranus. So there you go. But this was talking about when he's been going through Pisces. Pisces is the planet of spirit, of all that is, the creator of all that is. The sign. And so it's the wound of separation, the belief that we've done something so terrible, we were unworthy of God, we're separated from God. So it's been talking to us about healing our belief that we're separated from God. Like I was talking about that white light, the energy of creation, the energy of unconditional love that we're all sparks of. So it's been teaching us in different ways, like through a lot of energy healing modalities. A lot of people have become healers while Chiron was making his way through Pisces. And we've been learning to salve the wound, to heal that wound. So, excuse me. So the sun is at the very end of Pisces with Chiron today. And then we've got Mercury, Venus, and the moon all clumped up there together in Aries. We've got Pluto, Saturn, Mars in Capricorn, and Jupiter in Scorpio. There are no planets in air signs right now. So what that means, air signs are about taking the higher perspective. Air signs typically, like if you know anyone with a rising or sun, even moon in an air sign, they have a very light energy. And it's sort of like, oh, okay, it's our intellect, it's how we speak, it's writing. So with all of these planets in fire and then water, got earth, without air, it's difficult to find the words a lot of times. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I wanted to go into all this talk about the exhaustion. Everybody's feeling the exhaustion. Well, a lot of people are feeling the exhaustion. So if you were born from 1963 to about 1971, the planet Neptune is in Scorpio. Maybe the beginning of Sagittarius, but Scorpio, okay? Now, Neptune rules Pisces. That's him over there. He looks like a little satellite because he's getting all those downloads from Spirit. Neptune rules sleep, and I'm going to have to look at my notes, you guys. Exhaustion, these are the lower energies. Exhaustion, suffering, martyrdom, drugs and alcohol, how we escape. So even fantasy. He's also about the ethers, like what goes on beyond the veil, like what we don't see, like things that happen in dream time and astral travel. Our psychic gifts, our intuition, spirit, and he's the link to the other dimensions. So wherever Neptune happens to be in your natal chart, now it's generational because Neptune takes a long time to make it through one sign. When they're way out there, they stay for years in a sign. So everyone born, like I said, from I forget exactly in the 60s when he went into Scorpio, but what's happening right now is that Jupiter, who is the planet of gifts and blessings, and he rules Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the archer, so that's a centaur. He teaches us about the great beyond. He holds in Sagittarius. We have the great attractor, which is that gravitational anomaly. It's actually like a little bit beyond the constellation, but it's 14 degrees in Sagittarius. If you went through that, that's where the great attractor would be. And that is some sort of mass. They aren't sure exactly what it is, but it's a mass that has an influence over hundreds of millions of light years worth of galaxies and the star clusters around them. And also the galactic center is at the end of Sagittarius, and the galactic center was what the ancients referred to as the gate of the gods. It's where we get our downloads from the central sun, where our sun gets the downloads from the central sun. Jupiter rules the sign that holds those. Jupiter is about our quest for the truth of our own existence. He's about wanting to know more, wanting to explore, wanting to know what's beyond what we can see. He wants to get to the truth of the matter, and he encourages us to find our truth, to live our truth, to show it to others. He's the ninth house that rules teaching. And he's the ancient ruler of Pisces, which Neptune is the modern ruler of. When these two come together, what Jupiter does is it magnifies, it blows up whatever it's in, whatever sign it's in for you, whatever in your natal chart, whatever planet it's closest to, it magnifies that planet or even the issues with that planet because it's huge. I mean, he was the king of the gods, Zeus, Jupiter. He's a big boy. And when he's sitting where your Neptune is in Scorpio for the years that I was talking about, you are exhausted. You are so exhausted. And I mean, I know myself, like I'm lucky I've been able to take naps some days because I don't know what I would do if I couldn't. So that's why everyone is going through that right now. I mean, there were a lot of geomagnetic storms today, but I mean, I've seen them a lot worse than what I saw today. When, like, for instance, around the Lionsgate 888 in 2015, they were getting up, they were like G7, G8, like every day and throughout the whole day. And for all of August and a little bit of September, I was told to start paying attention to that back in 2015. So I would look at the website. It's NOAA. It's NOAA, and it's a government website. I believe they partner with NASA, but anyway, it talks about the geomagnetic storms, and if you sign up for email alerts, then you'll know every day. Like, it's not even normal to have a G1, and today we had like G4, G5, and then 7, 8. But no, I'm sorry, no, we didn't have 7, 8. It was nothing compared to what we had in like August, September of 2015. And they, I mean, some days I get like 4 or 5 notifications, and then I can go days and days without getting notifications. But I know, like, before I started my meditation practice, they really bothered me. Like, I would be all day. A lot of people talk about having headaches when they come in. So if that's something that interests you, it's NOAA, and you can sign up for the email alerts. But the exhaustion that's happening now, it's been happening for a while because Jupiter and where your Neptune is. Okay, so I'm pointing at Neptune, but actually I'm talking about where the Neptune in Scorpio for all the people born. And where he is in the degrees he's in now, it's affecting people born from like 1965 to 1969. If you're born before 1965, you've already had the worst of it, but Jupiter's coming back. So you're not out of the woods yet. This whole year, with Jupiter going through Scorpio, Jupiter, like I said, it wants us to find the truth and get to the heart of the matter and go deeper. And it's in that murky, still, dark water of Scorpio. It's like deep psychological things that are going on in us. And he's dredging the bottom of that swamp. So with these two planets together, you can a lot of times feel a high, like a really, like, oh, everything's so great. And then other times you can feel really awful. So that's why we're experiencing like periods of being euphorically happy and then depression, because Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, with being magnified, it's depressed. It can cause a lot of depression. He's starting to move backwards now, so people born closer to, like, I'm born at the end of 1969. And he's not so, like, he's still conjunct my Neptune, but I'm starting to actually feel a little bit better the past couple of days. I haven't been as exhausted. He's going to keep moving backward until about middle of July. And another thing I wanted to mention about Jupiter and Scorpio is that if the Scorpio constellation is in your 4th house, if you have Venus in Scorpio, your moon in Scorpio, your sun in Scorpio, your ascendant in Scorpio, and then there's a lot of placements. It's very, very possible that it's causing weight gain, because Jupiter doesn't just encourage us to expand to higher consciousness, he also physically expands us. That's just kind of part of the way it goes with Jupiter. Believe me, I'm an energy healer. I've done a lot of belief work for this, and I still have gained weight. So yeah, while he's retrograde now through the middle of July, he's going to go back over situations and things that came up like since the middle of December, about December 12th. he will bring back opportunities that you missed. It'll also be a great time to lose the weight, if any of you have gained weight since October when you went into Scorpio. And you'll be less tired because depending on what year you're born, because of where your Neptune placement is, but you're also getting a lot of downloads. These are the guys, you know, going further, going what's beyond, what is there out there, and then the planet that rules the sign of Spirit. You're getting a lot of downloads, and that can be exhausting too. So, you know, it's kind of like when I've heard Amanda Ellis, who channels Archangel Metatron, you know, talking about like describing this without using the astrology of it. That's what Metatron's talking about. You feeling the highs of the year and the lows of the year, and it's intense. It's very intense. Jupiter, Scorpio is the sign of intensity. It's intense. Scorpio is the sign of intensity. It's my sun, so I know. It's extremes. So when you got Jupiter there and your Neptune there, you are definitely like having an increase of psychic gifts. The veil is really thin for you when Jupiter is on your Neptune. But yeah, it's an awesome like year for spirituality and learning and growth, and it's tiring. So just keep that in mind. He will move backwards until July 11th. He won't leave Scorpio until the middle of November. So, okay, that's all I wanted to say about that. All right, and then I was going to talk a little bit about people experiencing sadness. Now, people that were born like 1967, April through September of 1967, you're getting triple whammied with all of this because your Chiron return is starting. So Chiron in the sky right now is meeting up where your Chiron, your natal Chiron is, where it was when you were born. So Chiron return, it's typically around age 50, but like I said, the orbit of Chiron is so erratic. Like mine will start when I turn 49, around my 49th birthday. So it's anywhere from like 48 to 52 is what I'm hearing. For, you know, anybody who is having the Chiron return, that can be, yeah, it's great. It's a great period of healing. It's kind of like you go through that and you come into your own, you're ready for your second Saturn return, but it's also, it can be painful. It can. So what I was going to say about all of this is if things came up with you for the new moons are not emotional. New moons are, the moon is invisible in the sky. We can't even see it. And the moon is emotion. Full moons are invisible. Now, a full moon on Chiron would have been a lot different story, especially at the end of Pisces. But new moons, it's when we start something new, a new journey. It's a new, if you're, like I said, if it's April to September 1967, if your birthday's in there, you're about to have a great period of healing. Like you just had a new moon on your natal Chiron. So it's like a fresh start with the healing. And then if things came up for you, like over this weekend, especially because today the sun is still on Chiron, like I said, things are coming up, look at those things because they're not going to fade away. Those are issues that you want to make sure you clear up going into this next period. This next period is really exciting. A lot of people right now are coming into their divine timing. The planets really, what's happening now with all of these planets in Aries and the sun about to move into Aries, answering to Mars while it's in its exaltation in Capricorn. You know, Mars is about action. It's go time, people. It's time to, whatever you came here to do, it's all about to happen. So, and that's another thing I wanted to talk. Oh, I forgot Uranus. Oh, jeez. Oh, well. Uranus, he's the invisible guy right down here at the end of Aries. And he's the planet, Uranus is in fire, okay? And he's electric. He's like Shazam. Like when you've had things where something abruptly happened to you, it doesn't have to be anything bad, but any kind of surprise energy, you were having a Uranus transit. Like even like when somebody finds out that they're pregnant, when they, you know, when they did everything they could to find out, or to be sure that they weren't going to get pregnant, that's typically Uranus. Uranus is like shock and awe and, oh, can't believe that happened. And he's about upheaval and he brings downloads from the cosmos. He rules the sign of Aquarius. He's about freedom. He rebels against the status quo. Uranus, Saturn, status quo. Uranus, no more status quo. So he's coming to the end of Aries. He's been there for the past 7 years, and he's been pushing us to break free of whatever is restraining us. Your Aries is the sign of self, so it's been about starting new things, like new chapter. Like, here's what you need to move forward, move forward. So when he's coming up here now to the end of Aries, whatever we've been putting off or we haven't followed through with, the universe will shift us into whatever it is that needs to happen, because he's here in Aries until May 14th. So I'm not going to say time is running out, but it's time to make the move. It's time to do that thing that you've been thinking about doing or that you really want to do. This is the time to do that. He's also in fire. You know, we look at anytime you get to the end of a sign, you're carrying the mostest energy of that sign. The most Aries is at the end of Aries. And Aries is ruled by Mars. So that's war, aggression, action, anger. It's our drive, our ambition. It's what thrusts us forward. It's movement. And when he's coming to the end of that sign of fire, you look at what's been happening in the Arctic. It's been so warm there. And I heard earlier today, I heard Amanda Ellis talking about Australia, that it's been very hot in Australia. Things are heating up, literally heating up. That's Uranus coming to the end of Aries. He's answering to Mars now in exaltation, so Mars is really going. I mean, that's where he loves to be. And we've also got Venus and Mercury in fire too this week. So, and then the sun, like I said, and the moon today. So there's a lot of fire in the sky right now. Okay. Mercury stations to go retrograde on Thursday. And on the 23rd, he'll start moving backward. His retrograde lasts until April 15th. He will be in Aries, in fire, until May 14th. He moves, not coincidentally, he moves with Uranus into Taurus. And the last aspect that he's going to make before he starts his retrograde, is going to be to Chiron and Lilith. Lilith is that aspect of the divine feminine. Now, the myth is that she was Adam's second wife, or one of his wives, and she found out that part of the deal was that she had to be subservient to Adam, and so she checked out of the garden. She was like, nope, not for me. I want my independence. I want my freedom. I'm out of here. So Lilith in your natal chart is speaking to what you want to break free from, or where you're rebellious. She gets kind of, the astrologers, and I've heard male astrologers talk about this, that astrologers were male. Like, women, we didn't do anything. We were just getting married and having children. So a lot of the times when they describe the asteroids, the feminine asteroids, it's with a negative connotation. So they talk about her being, like, they say it's your bitchiness. I see it more, she wants to be independent. She doesn't want a man holding her back. So Mercury is going to aspect her, and that's for male and female, wherever you want your independence and you don't want to be held back. And so I was told to look up, because Neptune will be sitting at 14 degrees for a while, and he's making that aspect to Neptune. So I wanted to read every single degree, all 360 degrees of the zodiac has an interpretation. There's a Sabian symbol, they're called, for each degree. Now, Neptune's been at 14 for a while. He was there at the new moon, and Neptune moves very slowly. So he's going to be sitting at 14 for a while, but when he speaks to Mercury, which is the mind, he's at the point called, and the description is, oh, you know what? I got to scroll down to 14. Now, this Sabian symbol is a lady wrapped in a large stole of fox fur. the use of intelligence and mental subtlety as a protection against storms and trials. Coming just after the preceding symbols and at the fourth stage, which is usually related to some kind of technique, this symbol might seem irrelevant. The key to its interpretation is fox fur. In symbolism and mythology, the fox is always a clever and subtle animal. It represents the intellect at its early stage of cunning. In a broader sense, it also refers to intelligence, considered as the ability to adapt to any and all situations. Spiritual will and the ability to stand in facing tests are necessary and crucial, facing tests are necessary in any crucial or challenging situation that an individual meets within a power-oriented group. But the sword-like will often has to be shielded, and intelligence or acumen can be the most precious help in danger. It is a personal shield, perhaps even a camouflage. It hides the central will, but it keeps the individual from unnecessary hardships. What we see symbolized here is a self-protective way of meeting the inclemencies of weather, actual or psychic, which abound as one leads a life consecrated to a vaster whole. For this very consecration arouses strong enemies. Unnecessary risks are forbidden to the initiate, for the security of the brotherhood might be in danger. The need for protective shielding is imperative, and glamour can be an effective shield. So I thought it was really interesting that it's talking about spiritual protection. It's talking about using our minds and having a strategy. It's talking about protecting the brotherhood. So, sending light to other light workers. And it's about Mercury's about to go retrograde. So, and he's in fire. So anyway, that was pointed out to me to look up that Sabian symbol. If you want to look it up, any of the Sabian symbols, like where your sun or your planets are, Dane Rudhyar is who I use. A lot of most astrologers use Dane Rudhyar's interpretations. You can just Google Dane Rudhyar Sabian symbol interpretation. So I thought that was pretty interesting, especially the nod to the weather. And then I also wanted to mention that with Mercury going retrograde, so stationing on Thursday, somebody was asking me, well, what about, should I do this or that with the retrograde? And Archangel Metatron said, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. So if there's something that you've been wanting to do that you know that you're called to do and you haven't started it yet, and Friday comes and you think, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, it's not. If it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter if the planet's retrograde or not, any of them. And what I did want to say too about that was that with Mercury retrograde, it can be a lot of things that we overlook. Like if you are signing a contract or you're buying something new, ask for protection over it. I do that all the time during Mercury retrograde. But also you want to double check that you're not signing something that you don't want to sign. And then sometimes there can just be a mix up with paperwork where you have to go back and do something again. So anyway, I wanted to talk about all that before we go into the energies day by day. So like I said, the moon, Mercury, Venus are all clumped up here together right in the middle of Aries today, answering to Mars and Capricorn. The sun is on Chiron. So we've got a lot of energy today. There's a lot going on in Aries, especially with the moon there, our mood. Monday, we've got the moon and Eris. Now, Eris is another one of those asteroids of the divine feminine, and she gets a really bad rap. They talk about her as being angry. I read an interpretation that I felt like she aspects my ascendant, and I felt like this resonated. She's more that feminine energy that is sure that she's going to make sure that the human race continues. She's going to fight for the human race. She's going to fight for the continuation of humanity. So she's got a lot of chutzpah. is what I just heard. Um, they're making an uncomfortable aspect to Jupiter tomorrow. So it's kind of like a pushing through tomorrow for Monday. She's determined and she's fighting for the continuation of humanity. And the moon is on her, so that's her mood. So I mean, it could be that people are a little bit short tempered tomorrow, especially because of that aspect with Jupiter. Monday evening, then the moon will move into Taurus, where she is in exaltation. Pluto will move to 21 degrees of Capricorn. He is only going to go between 21 and 18 degrees of Capricorn this year. But now he is sextiling, which is a nice, easy aspect with Jupiter. Jupiter is answering to him because he's in Jupiter's sign. So this is and this is going to continue because Jupiter is moving retrograde, and also because those energies are so big, and then actually Pluto will start to move retrograde too. That's going to go on until the end of May, and that's a very fertile energy. You've got water, and you've got earth, and you've got big players. So yeah, that's a very fertile energy. That's great for starting things. And then with Pluto too, Pluto is the energy of the phoenix rising from the ashes. That's Scorpio. That's the transformation. That's what's going on with these guys. So we've got until the end of May to work with that energy. That's great energy to be working with. It's also going to have a lot to do with the Me Too movement, with the March for Life movement for all the students. And sorry, if I don't look at this, you guys, it's just too much to remember. So Tuesday, the 20th, we've got the sun entering Aries. Happy spring. And I wanted to say, they had me checking out different sites. I was talking to Mary Magdalene. I was wondering, like, how is the divine feminine fitting into this Easter story? And I found the most awesome information that I would like to share with you. So Easter comes from Astra, was the old English way of saying it, or Ostara was the German way of saying it. She was a Germanic goddess. That's where Easter came from. She was the symbol. They colored Easter eggs, the pagans, and they left them on tombstones. She was the goddess of the dawn, fertility, and renewal of life. So they left the colored Easter eggs on the tombstones of their loved ones for their reincarnation, for like a charm for them when they came back into this existence. So I thought that was really amazing. Like all of these years that we've been celebrating Easter, we were actually celebrating, it was named for a goddess of the new dawn, of fertility. It was started as a celebration of the divine feminine. So I thought that was really, I did not know that, and I found that really fascinating. And then the rabbits were one of the symbols that they used for her too during the festival. Equinox means equal night and day and light. So when spring, we're talking about, for the Northern Hemisphere, obviously, we're talking about the light overcoming the darkness. So that's another reason for the celebration. And then there was another, he was called Attis. It was another pagan religion around the Mediterranean. Attis was born of a virgin, and they celebrated his resurrection between March 22nd and March 25th. These all coincide with the equinox. It's really about the equinox. And the Catholic Church, or I don't know if they were called the Catholic Church back then, but in 325 CE, they decided that Easter will always be on the first Sunday after the full moon, after the first full moon, after the equinox. So we have the full moon on the 31st, and then we've got Easter on Sunday. So they still do it that way, and it's about the equinox. It's not even, it's just, all these religions attach different things, but it's all the same story. It's about the starting again and growth coming, and like the bulbs that were planted in the fall, watching those start to come up through the earth, and celebrating life, celebrating the newness of life in the springtime, and everything turning green again. So, Anyway, I thought that that was pretty fascinating. That it's always been that the divine feminine's always been in there. We just kind of forgot about her. And when I was looking at the energies for like what I was saying about the Pluto, Jupiter, and then all of the planets in Aries and starting fresh, I kept hearing that verse in Esther in the Bible. Perhaps this is the moment for which you've been created. It's like this is it. It's go time. You've got Mars in exaltation, our drive, our ambition coming through. Climbing up that mountain. You've got all of the planets in Aries answering to him. And then this really fertile energy here. You've got Spirit here in his home sign of Pisces. It's an amazing time. It really is. This is a life changing. This year, the year of the Master, is life changing that we won't forget this year. I don't believe any of us will forget the things that go on during this year. Wednesday, then, the 21st, we've got the moon in Taurus, trining Pluto. So the moon's here making a very nice aspect to Pluto and talking to us about building something of value. Thursday, we've got the moon in Gemini. The moon in Gemini is very chatty. Gemini is like your neighbors, your siblings, your cousins. It's the neighborhood. It's the internet. It's just like it's also grade schools, but it's mostly communication. It's like if you're going to use this energy to start writing something, great day to start writing something. Vesta is the divine feminine, the representation of the Vestal virgins. The Vestal virgins they weren't actually virgins, they used the gift of sex to enlighten men and to do healing for them. She is going to be parallel the nodes of fate. So the nodes of fate representing like what we're moving toward, what we're moving away from. That's always whenever a planet or an asteroid aspects the nodes of fate, you want to make a note of that. Vesta is at the end of Sagittarius, and she will trine the invisible Uranus. So that's an initiative energy. And then also Pallas Athene will be an aspect to Vesta as well. Pallas Athene was the Greek warrior and leader. She was born of her father Jupiter's forehead. So she had no mother. She was like the balance of the divine feminine masculine because obviously she's a female and she just came from her father. She's a warrior energy, the female warrior energy. So I wouldn't be surprised if something comes with that on Thursday, the 22nd. Like if a woman, Pallas always talks truth and she doesn't mess around. She doesn't coddle you or baby you. She just says it like it is. And so I wouldn't be surprised if something comes up with maybe something with all the sex scandals that have been going on. Maybe in the United States, something gets moved on that whole. I know they're talking about the woman who is accused or has accused the president of having an affair with her and covering it up. That's Thursday the 22nd. And then when Mercury stations, he will be parallel. A parallel is different than a conjunction. It's how the planets are aspecting the Earth. It's just as important as a conjunction. So Mercury won't be right next to Uranus, but in the way that he's aspecting the Earth, he is. So he will, when he stations to move back after he's aspected Neptune, he's parallel Uranus. So that's right together with the planet Uranus. So that's also another thing to make note of for this Mercury retrograde. On Friday the 23rd, we have Venus and Mercury that have been together now for about 10 days or so. They've been together. They were together a lot going through Pisces too. Now Venus will start moving forward and Mercury, they'll separate. The Mars and the Sun, like once the Sun moves into Aries, immediately it's a 90-degree square to Mars. So squares, like in your natal chart, my guides always told me, like when I was learning astrology, that's power. They were saying that because I have so many squares in my natal chart. But it is. It's a pushing. It's a pushing through. It's a thrusting. It's like you've got to make something happen. It won't just come to you. It's not just going to land in your lap. But once you get through, it's a huge rush of whatever it is that you were looking to get. So they're going to be square pretty much the whole week then too. Saturday the 24th, I was looking at this energy and I was like, oh dear. We've got the moon in Cancer opposing first Mars and then Saturn. And then we've got Pluto squaring, coming into a square, Venus coming into the square with Pluto. And then she's aspecting Jupiter. So let's see if my chart was, it actually isn't an opposition. It's an energy, it's an aspect called a quincunx. It's an uncomfortable aspect. So I was saying about Venus, she's pissed and she's not going to take it anymore. She's not a happy lady. And I was like, wow, like look at, and then Mars is squaring the sun and it's exact that day on Saturday the 24th. And I was like, whoa, I wonder what's going down on Saturday. And they were like, it's the March for Life on Saturday. So then they started playing and I was like, oh, wow. And then they started playing the song We Are the Champions. So it's awesome. But really, like with everything that's happening, because then the moon will go on then to aspect Pluto. I think that it would be really important to send unconditional love and protection from the creator, the energy of creation, for the marches that will be happening for everybody involved. Because, it's a lot of Mars going on. And then you got Venus, the divine feminine, squaring Venus. You've got the moon, also divine feminine, in opposition to Pluto, Saturn, and Mars. Those are the big boys. I mean, these guys don't play around. These are all like war and destruction energies. Like if you look at like the days that war started, they were always players, and that's going back. Yeah. So yeah, we'll ask for protection. I thought it was funny that they were playing We Are the Champions. In other words, like there's nothing to worry about, but we'll send love and protection for them anyway. Sunday, then in the morning, the moon will continue then in its aspect with Pluto, like overnight and into the morning. And then that can be, the moon in Cancer is emotional anyway. Well, Cancer is emotional anyway. And then in opposition to Pluto, that could be an emotional day. Mercury will be squaring the moon, and Venus and Jupiter will still be in that uncomfortable aspect. So it could be bringing up for us like issues of value, pain of like somebody who didn't maybe treat us as well. It could be stuff with our mother. It'll be like a quiet day of reflection. Anytime that you're having, difficulty with any of these energies, what I do for years now is I ask before I go to sleep at night to spend time with Archangel Hope. She's the counterpart to Gabriel, and I feel so much better in the morning when I do that. Like when I have those days where I'm just like, I don't know if I could do this. And, you're crying and you don't know why you feel like this. I go and talk to Hope, and it makes me feel so much better. It really, really does. Remember, our angels can't help us unless we ask them to help us. Their hands are tied. That's the rule. They'll like give us protection. We have guardian angels, but if we want guidance and help with things, we have to ask, and then they're happy to give it to us. Otherwise, they're just bored anyway, right? So anyway, that's the energies for the week. My website is astrologyforascension.com. My Facebook page is Astrology for Ascension. And if you have any questions, you can email me at jennyb at astrologyforascension.com. Have a great week, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.